Yes. Now it comes to my attention that the guy who originally wrote that post actually nicked all his material from pureponage.com. Now, there's me thinking that he might have actually been funny and amusing. But no! It was lies. It was all lies. Oh well, that was of course Rap in the Forums. And that will be on the new Blue Please CD, which I know I've been saying it's going to be coming out for a month, but we were supposed to be getting a deal with a distribution company to release Blue Please the album, which would contain all these raps, some bonus stuff, and all that crap, and we'll be using it to raise money for WoW Radio. Now, we've been having problems with the distribution, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to release it through the World of Warcraft store, which is my Cafe Press fan site. And the price is going to be $8. So, not a lot at all. You'll get a nice printed CD full of Blue Please goodness and stuff that you won't ever hear on the radio. Absolutely not. There will be exclusive stuff on there. And it's for a good cause. You are raising money for WoW Radio to keep us on the air, because it costs us quite a bit. And if you do have some spare cash on your PayPal account that you don't really want, and you think you could donate to a good cause instead of sort of, throwing it at kittens, then my suggestion would be this. Head over to wcradio.com and click the donate button. Click the advertise donate button. It's at the top right of the screen. Yes, I'm begging on the show. But I think WoW Radio deserves it, and Athelas pays out an obscene amount of money to keep this radio station running, so I think it's only fair that we all support him in this venture. And if you don't like donating money for nothing, well, hopefully in a few weeks' time the Blue Please album will be out, and you can buy one of those for $8. Absolutely bugger all. And yes, you can get it in England. $8 for a CD. That's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Especially compared to what you get these days. Commercial CDs, $15 a CD. Ugh. But no, it's for people who enjoy the show and like the whole absurd idea of buying an album. Anyway, back to the task at hand, and that's discussing World of Warcraft. Got 15 minutes left to go. So, see if we can fill it in. Now, the whole trade skills versus drops things we didn't quite finish. I'm trying to think if there's really any way you can possibly balance it. There are 3 ways of getting items in World of Warcraft, as you well know. Let's not count vendors, because vendors are rubbish. Almost universally crap. So, the ways of getting items in World of Warcraft are, of course, through drops, through quests, and through crafting. Now, is it possible to balance all 3? It's damn tricky, because there are a lot of items in the game. It's inevitable that some imbalance will occur. However, the main issue with balance is that you don't have to balance all the weapons, because often you're progressing through weapons, etc., etc. You'll pick one that suits your style, and you'll get rid of it a few levels later. However, it's the endgame weapons that really make the difference. So, we come on to the issue of the Ice Barbed Spear once more, a debate that's still been raging. And there's a few arguments in favour and against the implementation of the Ice Barbed Spear. Now, those who do not know what the Ice Barbed Spear is, I will try and get it off Thoughtbot for you so I can link it in the chat room. And of course, if you're not in the chat room, then what are you thinking? Get over to wcradio.com, click the RC button at the top of the screen. You'll find our chat room. Fantastic. Okay, Ice Barbed Spear. Here we go, the Ice Barbed Spear. I shall link that for you in the chat room. There we go. Ice Barbed Spear. Now, think about the Ice Barbed Spear is that it's free. Not only is it free, but you can get it from a quest, which is actually very easy. Now, the big problem with this blade, well, there are 2 problems. The first problem is that it's better than the Blackhand Doomsaw. If you look at the stats for the Blackhand Doomsaw, another polearm, you will clearly see that the Ice Barbed Spear is a better choice. And it's free, very easy to get hold of. You don't have to do Blackwatch Spire for it. However, the other argument is that it's actually comparable to the end-game weapons. We're talking Spinal Reaper, Arcanite Reaper here. Very debatable. Not quite the case, because you see, with the Arcanite Reaper, you have a slower speed and a higher max damage. and the extra attack power you get translates into a bigger bonus than the plus strength you get from the Ice Barbed Spear. So the Arcanite Reaper is better. Indisputably better. It does more damage. It's great for the MS Warrior build. But here's the issue. It's almost as good. And it's a very easy choice to make, and it's not as bad as some warriors would make it out to be. Sure, it's not as good because you have to then go through the warrior tree and get polearms, which is not as good as axe specialization because it's further down the tree, which means obviously that you can't do a split between two talent trees as easily. And you won't get things like improved hamstring, etc. Now, the issue I've got with the Ice Barbed Spear is different to all of those. The issue I've got is that it highlights just how pathetically awful some of the endgame crafted items really are. Now, an example of this would be the Arcanite Champion. I'm going to link this for you also in the IRC channel, and if you're not in there, get in there now! There's no excuse. The Arcanite Champion. Now, the drop for this is blue plan drop, yeah? It's rare plan drop for this. There we go. The Arcanite Champion. You'll notice that the max damage of that is a hell of a lot lower than the max damage of the Ice Barbed Spear. It has a quite nifty ability, but it's effectively a Crusader enchant built into the weapon. Not as good necessarily as a Crusader, but near enough. Compare that to the Ice Barbed Spear, which you can get for free. You've got a little bit of a problem there, considering this sword requires 15 Arcanite bars, 8 Azerothian diamonds, a Righteous Orb, and a few other things to build. It's pretty much worthless in comparison to the Ice Barbed Spear, and that is unexcusable. Because the Ice Barbed Spear is usable at level 51. The Arcanite Champion is a level 58 weapon and yet is worse, and requires a hell of a lot of grinding and effort to get. It's a very expensive weapon. And I think the concept of taking a weapon like the Ice Barbed Spear, make it extremely easy to obtain to anyone that's level 51 plus, because all you have to do is kill a guy and be in the group that kill them, and yeah, you can go and claim your reward. Ice Barbed Spear. The concept of putting that weapon in there, which negates so much of the end game weapons and crafted items, is, in my opinion, totally obscene. Inexcusable. So, my suggestion would be this: nerf the Ice Barbed Spear, because it's too good. Now, some people would say, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, it's free, why should you complain? The reason you complain is simple: it devalues other weapons in the game, and it devalues crafting professions, and that is one of my pet hates. It's a rantathon, folks, here on WoW Radio today. It's horrible. Not a good idea. And I think the Ice Barbed Spear needs a serious nerf. Because it's free. And a free item should never be as good as that. Now, you say drops are free items, but they require effort to get, and a lot of them are random. Take the Spinal Reaper. One of the most vicious, absolutely vicious, probably the most vicious axe in the game as far as I'm aware. I'll link that in the channel for you also, and show you just how uber this weapon is. This is your top axe. Nothing can beat this axe. It's super mega awesome. There you go. The Spinal Reaper. Best axe in the game. 3.9% drop rate off Ragnaros. So quite rare. I've never seen one. I know there's not one on my server. Apparently there are 4 people, according to Thoughtbot, 4 people in the game who have it. And that's obviously the people who use the Cosmos UI and all the data they've managed to track. 4 people with the Spinal Reaper. Vicious weapon. But it's not free, because you have to kill Ragnaros for it, and it's a random drop. You're going to have to grind Molten Core on average. Let's see how good my maths is. It never was very good. 25-ish times to get it, something like that. Say I never was any good at maths, but The idea of having the Ice Barbed Spear and negating so many of these end-game items is silly. Obviously, it's not a candle on the Spinal Reaper, and it's not quite as good as the Arcanite Reaper either, but it's as good as the Blackhand Doomsaw. It kicks the arse off the Barbarous Blade, and several other of the so-called endgame weapons are made obsolete by this free weapon. Before, there was a point in actually getting these weapons. Yeah, sure, they're not necessarily as good as the Arcanite Reaper, but they're pretty good. So I'll go into that instance and I'll have, I'll put forward the effort to actually get this item. Now why bother? The Ice Barbed Spear's there, we can just get that. And it can be used by most melee classes. Hunter can use it, whereas the Hunter can, I don't know, the Hunter can use two-handed axes. I don't play a Hunter, so I'm not going to comment. But would nerfing the Ice Barbed Spear solve the problem? No. In my opinion, the problem is the attitude of Blizzard as regards to crafted endgame items. Yeah? And the problem is that some of them are just totally worthless. Take, for example, the Flawless Arcanite Rifle. It's an endgame engineering schematic. I managed to get hold of one of the few people on the Dagger Spine Europe server that have it. It's a rare schematic. It might be a green drop, but it's exceedingly difficult to get a hold of, and very expensive. Very expensive to make, obviously, because it requires Arcanite. Unfortunately, it's not comparable to other weapons, which are actually, in reality, easier to get. You can buy a Hurricane Bow for cheaper, and a Hurricane Bow is better in almost every respect. So what's the solution? The solution, as far as I'm concerned, is a general balance pass buff to most crafted items, because as far as I'm concerned, crafting is getting the raw end of the stick right now. It's been getting it for quite some time now. They're adding new recipes, yes, but I'd prefer if they didn't just start afresh and actually fix the old ones first. Obviously, new recipes is great, fantastic, new content, new things for the crafters to do, and some of us really do enjoy our crafting professions. I love engineering. I make it my mission to collect every single engineering schematic in the game, no matter how expensive and how ridiculous. But it's so heartbreakingly depressing to see that kind of thing happen. It really is. So I say, general balance pass buff to crafted weapons. And that's my soapbox for the day, folks. And it brings on to the issue that other people have been saying, this is another argument for the Ice Barbed Spear, that it is a buff to casual players. Now, I've got nothing against casual players. You could class me in respect as a casual player, because right now I'm not playing World of Warcraft that much. I'm a bit obsessed with Battlefield 2. I'm right in the middle of Knights of the Old Republic 2 for the second time through, playing Dark Side, no doubt. And I haven't been playing WoW that much, so you could consider me a casual player right now, but occasionally I will go on and play 7-8 hours at a time, and that isn't casual at all. No, not at all. So, it's a buff to casual players. Yes, because it's easy to get. Is it the sort of buff you want as a casual player? I say no. Because it damages so many other aspects of the game. It is not balanced. It is an imber weapon on the respect that it's so easy to get. Really. I'm not kidding. So, we have a situation where casual players are saying, yes, I want this weapon. And everyone else is saying, no, this weapon should not be in the game because it devalues other end-game weapons. And I would agree with them when they say that. Because it does. What other polearm, what other weapon at level 51 can you get that's that powerful and happens to be free? As far as I'm aware, there is no such thing. It is the most powerful level 51 polearm in the game. And probably, arguably, the most powerful level 51 in the game. So, what I would say is, if casual players want something, I think Blizzard needs to sort out the idea of incremental play. Now, the reason a casual player can get to level 60 is because he can do it at his own pace. Experience carries over. And the fact that experience carries over means that you can play at your own pace. You can go on and play for half an hour, do a few quests, log out, and feel like you've achieved something. And this was one of the biggest points on the positive reviews of World of Warcraft when it was first released. incremental play. Play at your own pace. The problem is that the endgame stuff is not like that. You can't play Molten Core incrementally. You can't solo it, rightly so in my opinion, because there needs to be some hardcore instances stuff, and there needs to be some cooperation in the game. I'm not a big fan of soloing, although I do occasionally do it, and it's not as fun as grouping. It never has been. I think the whole idea of RPGs has always been to group and use the different abilities of different classes rather than just your own. But I can see why people would solo. Some people don't like guilds, the hassle it brings. Some people are just antisocial. Some people don't have the time to get involved in a larger community, so they will solo. The idea of soloable instances has come up quite a lot, and possibly, I think it's a reasonable idea that you can get some kind of equipment from soloing, as long as the soloing, of course, is not easy. And that's fair enough, but bringing the Ice Barbed Spear in, I think, is very counterproductive. It's not the sort of buff that casual players should be receiving. They need incremental play, something they can work towards and then get a hold of. Doesn't matter how long it takes them, they will get it. So that's the idea. Endgame casual play, a bizarre concept. In any other game, you wouldn't see casual players getting to the top level, but in this game you do, because the leveling, in a similar way to Guild Wars, although not quite as extreme, is not all of the game. Whereas in EverQuest and stuff like that, leveling is. That is it. Final Fantasy. Absolutely. Level, all the time. That's your aim. When you get a level 60, there are other things to do. And even casual players, so-called casual players, can get to level 60. Which means that you need endgame content for casual players. And the Ice Barbed Spear is not the way to go because it makes an entire mockery of the endgame crafting system. Black. Rant over. Now, I think we should play a song. It's only right. I'm trying to think if I can find something remotely appropriate to what I've been saying, but it's just been a total rant. So I'm going to play some Run DMC. Someone asked for rap. Now, I'll only play decent rap, especially the original version of Run DMC Walk This Way featuring Aerosmith. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to WoW Radio. This is Blue Please with Total Biscuit. More features coming up later, including Imbecile of the Week and the Nubcake News. This is Run DMC. This is Walk This Way featuring Aerosmith. Enjoy.